Hello there. Um, Welcome to the second Death of a Nightingale podcast, and welcome back if you came to the first one. Um, I want to begin this one with a shock headline that was in the Times only yesterday, because it sets the stage for what I want to talk about. Don't know whether you saw it. Millennials all over the world have lost faith in democracy. A survey of nearly 5 million people showed that those in their 20s and 30s, born between 1981 and 1996, had less faith in democratic institutions than their parents or grandparents did at the same time. And collapse of confidence is particularly pronounced in Anglo-Saxon democracies of Britain and the United States. Well, in my view, this is a serious situation. I can actually give you a little clue to it in my for what it's worth now. I think a lot of democracy is sadly a sham. I think a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, and behind the smoke there are far too many people who make playing charades a way of life. And the mirrors, well, the mirrors I think are cracked. And when I talk about the mirrors, I'm talking about the media. I think this highlights, in my view, the need to use this time for brain exercises. As I said last time, we may have to lock down our bodies, but that's no good reason to lock down our brains. I think to some extent we should use our brains for enjoyment. I use it for bridge and chess and music, but serious stuff as well. And I look forward to sharing my thoughts with you. Can I begin here with an anecdote which I think is relevant? One of my involvements is being chairman of a residential care home, and there was a lady there called Flo Wilkinson who lived to the splendid age of 105. When Jonathan Sachs paid a pastoral visit to the home, he made a beeline for this lady, and he said, what's your explanation for your longevity? And she said, never stop learning. Well, that's true of me from day one. And furthermore, it goes more than that. In my book, Death of a Nightingale, I quote T.S. Eliot for quartets. We shall not cease for exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. As I said last time, the world isn't as I saw it when I was at university. What I said last time was that I had a crystal ball. It was a bit cloudy, and since then the crystal ball is shattered to smithereens. Mercifully for me, I found another ball or balls to bounce around to take its place. But I've had, as I said, a lot of experiences, and they've changed my view of things, as you will see. And I am in a good position to talk about success in life because I've seen it around and I can talk about it meaningful to you. And we can look together at student loans and discuss to what extent they facilitate the quest for success. As I said last time, I think it's extremely important to get success into people's lives. Not just for your own sake, but to the country. We're in coming out of this terrible virus. There are going to be a lot of problems around, tsunamis with mental health problems and fiscal issues and so on, and Brexit as well. So the country needs people who are successful, who are winners. So I'm going to ask you to think what you consider to be success, to make winners. What are the essence of it? What are the ingredients of it? For what it's worth, I'll tell you what I think. I think it has to be something more than just a good job and a fat salary. I think you're looking for some sort of fulfillment. I think you probably want some long-term security, a pension. I think the money to enjoy yourselves, why not? And also maybe a stake in a house that you own. There are lots of factors, maybe some recognition, but anyway, you think around what you need to be successful. then you've also got to recognize, I think, the roadblocks in the way of being successful. I think you've got to recognize that a degree, it's not a passport to success. A degree may be not much more value than a London A to Z to a man lost in the jungle. And the world is a bit of a jungle. It's not a success if you're in a job and you don't like it, you hate what you're asked to do, but you can't leave it because you've got bills to pay or debts to repay. It's not a success if you constantly feel that there's something that a step higher up there that you're being denied. You shouldn't necessarily be too greedy for yourself if you want success. The other thing I have to warn you about are the people who are what I call dream merchants. Now, let me tell you about dream merchants in the world today. I know I can recognize dream merchants because I once was a dream merchant when I was an active member of the Liberal Party. I mean, my dream was to break the mould of British politics, and Joe Grimmond was my man. He was going to march us all towards the sound of gunfire. Well, unfortunately, never got there. Well, I went to Liberal Party headquarters to try and bring the Liberal Party into the 20th century halfway through it. And it was a job because I remember going in the hallway there and the mat was lifted up and the dust went up to the ceiling, and the rooms were coloured with stained with nicotine. But nevertheless, I enjoyed the ride. It was good for me. I was introduced to Bartley Powell, who was the party's first graphic designer, and that has stood me in good stead ever since. Well, there were great times. There was the Orpington by-election, which I was present at. Probably shouldn't have been in the count, but never mind. And there were some poorer, less good times when somebody ran off with some of the ballot papers. Well, you know, Liberals shouldn't do that sort of thing. But of course, the one thing that I did see then was the Achilles heel of the Liberal, and that is naivety. And sadly, it's there to this day. And I am afraid I've got to draw attention to it here because it is a problem. I've got this quote from Joe Swinson, who was the leader recently of the Lib Dems. Our party has long prided itself on its commitment to education as the great leveller, the best way to create social mobility and equality of opportunity in society. Well, I've got to say that to talk about levelling, and I know that egalitarians talk about levelling, is flat earth stuff. It is, it's flat earth stuff. The world is not like that and never will be like that. The world has in it winners and losers. It has hills and troughs. On the hills, you will find people in pursuit of excellence. You will find the professionals who have a care for detail. And in the troughs, you will find mediocrity and amateurishness. And it's very likely to stay that way, I'm afraid. If you want to be a winner, I think you've got to aim for the hills. And there's no easy way. You've got to go there. And this is the challenge that you have to face. Let me take it a stage further and say that you've got to be very careful when these dream merchants offer you human rights, because people can offer you human rights, but the rights may not contain any benefits. So you've got to be careful about that. I mean, I'll give you a classic illustration of that. And here's this situation I've been dealing with in Newcastle. You'll see here Gosforth High Street, and you'll see here a pop-up cycle lane giving cyclists a right to ride on it. Well, they've got a right to ride one way, but they haven't got a right to ride back. And they've got a right to clean air, but they won't find much clean air in that cycle lane alongside slow-moving traffic. So be careful of the rights there. When it came to special needs, kids were given a right to special needs. Kids were given a right to mainstream education, but a lot of them were bullied in mainstream schools. So there's no great joy in that. This is the conundrum. you've got to be very careful about with human rights. People may offer you, they may offer you the right to a bed, and you may expect a bed of roses, but you have got to make jolly sure that it's not a bed of nails. The other way of looking at human rights, and I invite you to do this as well, is to think of people that you've seen in your own life who you would regard as successes. I give you one illustration, which may be a strange one, but I think it's accurate. In Rotary, there was a guy who comes to speak to us. He comes with his guide dog. He's blind. And three things about him. The first is that he likes cricket. Well, it may be strange, but there you are. Cricket's a lot about records, and wisdom is the Bible. But more than that, he played cricket, probably not in a mainstream school, but with other people who had sight problems. They played with a ball filled with dried peas. But even more than that, he went to the Caribbean and to watch England against the West Indies, and he was invited to commentate. Well, you know, in his own way, he was a success. But I've seen success in a wider context. I've seen success in the Barbara Priestman School. The presentation evenings there were spectacular. Everybody was celebrating something, some victory or other. I mean, you've got the classic situation here. I mean, these kids, some of them went to the Paralympics. In Sydney, two of them came back with medals. There was the kid who, the blind kid who had an award for drawing a windmill. There was the Scout Award. There was the pans that Steel Drum Bandit had. They were invited around every week, and they had national recognition. Now, all these people were winners. Not just they were winners, but their parents and teachers and carers were all winners. And there's not much talk then about disadvantaged. There's no time for talk about being disadvantaged in situations like that. They were really just cracking on with things. And that is again, something that's left me with a very strong memory about how people can make success of their lives. And one person in particular, there was a girl at the school called Ashley Ritchie, now Ashley Watts. Now, she was a feisty lass when she was at school. And I've got a picture of her here. She was campaigning with the parents there who raised the 14,000 reasoned objections to closure. And here she's with them. Got another picture of her where she's lobbying with parents, David Blunkett in London. But I've also got more recent pictures of her because she's a very great friend of ours. And we were invited to her wedding not all that long ago. And here's a picture of her. This is a picture of her dancing at her wedding. Now, she's the sort of person who took her husband to Dance City in Newcastle to learn how to dance with somebody in a wheelchair. Wow. And I've got another picture of her here, and this is where she is with her teachers. She surrounded herself with, she hadn't forgotten them because she knows how much they contributed to her being the sort of person that she is. What I learned from Ashley was that there's altogether different, that self-esteem is altogether better than parity of esteem. And it's something which you yourselves should think about. In my play Death of a Nightingale, I constructed a narrator, Tracy, and Tracy, I have to tell you, Tracy is Ashley. Forgive me if I just have a little drink. But just carrying that just a little bit further before I conclude. As I said earlier on, Joe Swinson talked about equality of opportunity. And I guess most people say that that's of the essence, equality of opportunity. Well, I now qualify that. Because if you're talking about equality of opportunity to go to university, truth be told, that applies only to half the school population. The other half are not going to go there. And if they fail to get there, then in a sort of a way, they're failures. I think it's a serious question. So if you want to have winners from that segment of society, whether they should have an entirely different curriculum and not to select for personal choice between one and the other. And I mean, my mind goes back to Barbara Policeman School again. And in that school, there was a teacher who was teaching baking cakes. Well, I think it's a good idea to teach kids to cook and maybe cook and eat healthily. No bad thing. But lots of subjects which could be taught there. DIY, um, um, art and music and design and so on could be taught there. And even things like sports and games you could teach there. Don't eliminate games. Monopoly would be a very good training ground for entrepreneurs and house and hotel builders. I know somebody, a young couple who in fact are just putting on the market a game called Cozy Juicy Real. And this is a game which they hope to market. Well, you see, if you open up the subject, there's no knowing where it can lead. This is the way I think your mind should be going. But I just want to talk one little bit more about the winners that I've seen around. And that's my old company. Well, I have to say that I have had no financial interest in that company since I left it because I, I, I just wanted to get away from the rat race altogether. And although I had my measure of success in the company, what has happened since I left it has been amazing. That when I joined the company, initially it had a turnover of about £100,000. Well, now it's got a turnover of 300 million. And I've got to say that that has produced a lot of winners. The staff are winners. And I know some of them still the same staff since I was there quite a lot of years ago. The staff are winners. The investors are winners, and some of the investors I'd have you remember are in fact hold pension funds. So it's not just wealthy people who are investors. Then the manufacturers are winners, and the customers themselves are winners. All these people are winners in this world. And what in fact this tells you, it tells you the nature of capitalism. And not just capitalism, but how dynamic capitalism can be, because all of this happened in a lifetime. And well, you know, competition is a spur, and profit is what you call a sine qua non. That is with nothing. And just believe me, that is the case. So this is again something which I think you should come to terms with, because I'm trying to tell you that Karl Marx, in my view, knows about as much about 21st century capitalism as the man in the moon knows about the Apollo project. So again, allow your brain to think around these subjects. That's what I would hope you're going to do. Well, anyway, I've spoken enough for today, and I think next time we will look more at student loans and see to what extent they do encourage you to be a success. I think they need to be improved dramatically. I think currently they shortchange you. But that's for next time. Thank you very much for being with me today, and I wish you well in the meantime. Keep well, keep safe.